Welcome back. After a 10-year battle, a ban on menthol cigarettes should have been in the works. However, delays are causing concerns for several public health advocacy groups. NYC Smoke Free is one of several organizations that aim to address the issue of menthol cigarettes and how the delayed ban could affect marginalized communities. The Community Engagement Manager for NYC Smoke Free, Stefanie Altman, joins me to discuss. Stefanie, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, the ban on menthol cigarettes has been an ongoing fight for decades. I know many of us have probably seen the commercials and have seen so much. Can you just give us a little bit of background on how it actually began?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that the ban on menthol, well, actually, we at New York City Smoke Free just want to lay this clear that we are not against smokers who choose to practice that lifestyle. We are just here really to educate people on the importance of adopting tobacco-free norms. So just want to lay that out there for everyone to know. And the history of menthol cigarettes really has started since the 1950s. And from there, products proliferated, developed into things like e-cigarettes, as we know today, and different products that have menthol in them. And obviously, with the products on the market, menthol does make it easier for people to start smoking and harder for people to quit.
Now, there has been a delay in the ban, as I mentioned. Can you just let us know what are maybe some possible causes for this delay?
Sure. There are many reasons why, but we know that for us as an organization at New York City Smoke Free, at Public Health Solutions, we're just really here to educate people on the dangers of it. So, that's our hope. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do menthol cigarettes differ from regular cigarettes, or is there a difference at all?
Absolutely, there is a difference, and it's really good to know what that difference is. And basically, menthol cigarettes essentially have the ingredient menthol added to it, which essentially helps the smoker, whoever is consuming the product, inhale more smoke, and it cools the throat as you inhale it. So you get more of that nicotine hit, and essentially it does help the smoker consume more of that smoke. Yeah.
Now, the New York State Department of Health launched the It's Not Just campaign to end misconceptions about menthol cigarettes. Can you tell me a little bit more about that campaign, and what are some of the misconceptions that are floating around about menthol cigarettes?
Yeah, absolutely. So the campaign is really a push to really bring to light the really deceptive and predatory practices that big tobacco has hooked people in terms of buying these products. It brings to light, especially through the lenses of looking at the LGBTQIA+ community, the African American community, and especially our youth, about how marketing schemes have been tailored to bring those people in as new smokers or continue to be smokers. And we look at different projects in the menthol, It's Not Just campaign about, there's even a project called Project Scum, which targeted LGBTQIA individuals especially. So it's the reach of the big tobacco industry has been pretty invasive and pretty predatory. So that's what we hope to enlighten people on. It's an educational campaign that we hope that people will access and bring to light what's going on.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about, I don't recall what it was, but you just mentioned it, that the one that targeted LGBTQ communities.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's, and across the board it also happens, but this project especially looked at, was really a marketing campaign to target LGBTQIA+ communities. So, it basically learned, or big tobacco sponsored pride events, things like that. They found ways to come into the communities and promote a positive image, but yet they're still pushing these products out that are deadly for people to smoke.
Well, I definitely want to later on in the interview talk about more about these marginalized communities, because I think that it's a very interesting thing and almost complicated. Basically kind of like what you told me. But before we get into that, can you just talk about why is there a need to ban menthol cigarettes? And for those who don't know, what threat do they actually pose to public health?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great question. I think the bigger picture is really important to keep in mind. So we look at these especially vulnerable communities because with youth, uniquely, there is a concern that these, as the tobacco industry has labeled them as recruitment smokers or replacement smokers, the idea that the youth will replace the people who may end up at some point dying from a tobacco-related illness. And in the African American community, we can namely, say that the African American community does suffer from the disproportionate health disparities that smoking just complicates and exacerbates. So chronic health conditions like COPD, asthma, lung cancers, and any other cancers. And the LGBTQIA community too, primarily can suffer from the same things. So the idea is really that through education, through our efforts at New York City Smoke Free, that we can help people make the right decisions in terms of living a tobacco-free life, if that's something that they want to do.
Now,
Yeah.
what, the ban delay, what could that mean in the long term or in the long run for a lot of these communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So simply, I think it's the concern that the longer that these products are out on the market, that the more opportunity there is for someone to, or some people, to start and get addicted, and the longer that those who do currently smoke menthol products or menthol cigarettes, suffer from the health, consequences of that.
Now, how
Yeah.
how will the delay of this ban affect people of color, especially those who are Black and brown people from lower income communities?
Yeah, especially that. So that's a big concern. I mean, it's very real. From these communities, especially, like we know that menthol cigarettes are sold at a cheaper price than in non-communities of color, if that makes sense. So, for these communities, like I mentioned, with the disproportionate health disparities that we do see, the evidence, it's in the studies that in public health, that Black and brown people do suffer at a higher rate of chronic illnesses. It's just more of an impact on health negatively that is going to happen if menthol products are still going to be out there and accessible.
Now, the tobacco industry is known to target youth, African Americans, and the LGBTQIA plus community. You talked about one of the tactics that they used that I thought was very interesting
Yeah.
because I think it's almost polarizing, that it's supporting a community at the same time while harming them. What are some other tactics that they use to maybe target maybe the youth or African American communities or other marginalized communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So namely, like we've seen in the LGBTQIA plus community that, like I said, Big Tobacco has sponsored Pride events. They've set up booths, have pushed out their products at these events. For the Black and African American community, namely, historically, they've also sponsored events such as the Jazz Cool Festival. So, the jazz music festival that predominantly is of Black music and things like that. And then for the youth, for our youth population, it's especially concerning because Big Tobacco has studied youth behavior and how to recruit new youth smokers. So and through all this, they promote it through folks from these communities, namely being depicted like culturally tailored images, showing like a glamorous lifestyle, like it's cool to do, and so there's an appeal how do you say it? There's an appeal to get to that ideal, like I'm cool,
Right.
but yet there's a deadly consequence on the other side.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about your organization.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of give us an overview and your mission? I know in the beginning you kind of talked about, that it's not really coming from a place of judgment or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the overall goal of your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission really at New York City Smoke Free is to promote tobacco-free norms throughout the city where people live, work, and play. So we are really here as an advocacy and educational program at Public Health Solutions, our bigger organizations to really drive this mission forward. And we have a two-pronged program. So we work within community engagement where we work with buildings and businesses to help them go smoke-free through voluntary policy adoption. So, fostering smoke-free environments where people can enjoy clean air and breathe it. And then we also have our youth engagement arm. So that's a really important program for us too, which is called Reality Check. And we work with students 13 to 18 so they can become like peer health advocates for their school communities and other peers to say, hey, these are the dangers of vaping, which is a big thing, and also smoking as well. And through this like kind of dual approach, we just hope that we can reach people at all levels in all the corners of the city that we work in.
And for those who may struggle with wanting to quit smoking, because that is a challenge for many people, they do smoke and they want to quit, but as with a lot of habits, it can be hard. So, what are some of the resources that your organization offers to help people stay on track with that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone's looking to quit, they can call the New York State Quit Line. And there they can provide like free confidential services for people who are looking to quit. There's counseling services provided as well. So it's free as well. So that's a plus.
And can you just talk about a little bit about your journey, helping educate the city, so many different aspects of our city, just a little bit more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, like community engagement, like I'm working in all facets in terms of like working with residents of New York City. I work, with business owners in New York City to provide smoke-free environments. And these are people that want to make a change, and and the overall idea is really to protect the health of all and ensure that, there's a healthy environment for all people, patrons, residents to live in. We also connect with elected officials throughout the city. So we have we have regular meetings yearly to say, hey, we're New York City smoke-free. This is what we do. And our hope is really to connect with those elected officials to leverage our message and like kind of broadcast having a smoke-free city is our ideal because the health of New Yorkers are really important to us.
And I think that's really interesting that you brought up elected officials, because I think that a lot of the time organizations, we feel that they do the work alone. And a lot of times they do this work alone, but I think it's so amazing that you have support or you try to work with elected officials. Very quickly, do any come to mind or any elected officials that were very supportive of this mission?
Yeah, we have plenty, and I work in I work in Manhattan, namely. So I am from the Bronx because I can say that much. So I have a stake here, but we have a number of elected officials, namely Al Taylor, who's incredible to work with. He's closer to the Bronx, and Linda Rosenthal and Deborah Glick, who are amazing folks as well, and a number of other folks who are just not coming to mind. But I think majority of elected officials want to have a smoke-free, in a community just for everybody, And again, we're not here to ban smokers. We're not here to point a finger at smokers. Just saying, let's just consider everybody's health in the mix of it all.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and educating our community about this. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
If you or someone you know is trying to live a smoke-free life but needs a little help or support to get started, please go to the website www.nycsmokefree.org and be sure to follow them on social media at NYC Smoke Free. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hymie on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time. So I asked you to stay on set, but